Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Karla Eli Show. I'm your host, Karla Eli, and I'm here to guide you, to help you restore your healthy mindset. I'm still figuring out my opening because I want to go back to my roots as to when I said, hello, hello, my name is Karla, and I'm here to restore your healthy mindset. So we're still playing with the opening statement, but nevertheless, here we are with our special guest, and this is part two. So please welcome back Marshana. And if I hear or if I sound a little raspy, if I sound a little sick, it's because I just got through a fever. So please do not mind me. Today's conversation is going to be so good. And I wanted to invite Marshana back because I don't think I could have this conversation with anybody else. And I feel very comfortable with Marshana now. So I feel like I can express myself unfiltered version of myself without being judged. So Marshana, please step in, come into the chat. How are you?
Oh my goodness. Well, thanks once again for having me. I love being a part of this audience, being a part of working in tandem with you. I feel that I'm more unfiltered with your audience than even my own. So I just love being here, and I hope you feel better. I feel bad that you're not feeling so good today.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's fine, but I did want to say something. So I went back to our first conversation on
Mhm.
YouTube, and there was a couple of ladies on there who commented saying that you opened their eyes to the what was it, The Bachelor, the single bachelor, or like the
The professional
35.
bachelor.
Yes, a professional bachelor. And a lot of women resonated with what we were saying, and they said and expressed a lot of thank you and just gratefulness. So thank you so much for your time and for being here with us because I know a lot of women benefit from both your audience and my audience, but just in general. Right now, we need more women like you to speak up, and that's why I have you on my show. So
Thank
without
you.
further ado, let's get into the questions. So we first started talking about feminism, just very briefly on our last conversation. We didn't really get to dive into it. But now that we're able to have the space, I really want to go back to feminism. The way that I grew up and the way that I guess I was taught, I never knew a world outside of not having feminism. Okay. When I say not having feminism, I mean like ever since I was maybe grade five, maybe fifth grade, it's been ingrained in my mind from our public school system that in a way, women are better than men, or women can do it all, can be all, and there's no other way to live life um, except for just being that superwoman. And so it took me, I think, some time, several years to break away from that. But I want to hear your perspective on when you started to notice that feminism started having like a toxic angle. Was it ever really healthy? I don't know. What are your thoughts? I want to hear you. Let's start the
I mean,
conversation.
I didn't really understand the negative effects of feminism until I was in my mid 30s. So it's not something that I always believed in. I wasn't always aware of the pitfalls of feminism. I think that's the way to say it. And a lot of people, when I read the comments, not on YouTube, but the people who saw clips on maybe Instagram, for example. And that's not to blame them. Instagram is very short. You're not getting the full context of the conversation. So it's very difficult to form an opinion on a totality of a conversation when you're watching a clip on Instagram. And many people just thought that I misunderstood what feminism is. And I'm like, no, I know exactly what feminism is. And that's why I can say I don't like it. But the issue is, I feel that we can do it all. I really feel like we can. We literally can. We shouldn't have to. And I feel like feminism has weakened men. And it has put women in a place where more often than not, we have no choice but to do it all because we cannot find suitable partners. And I think that's also part of the many pitfalls of feminism. My mother could have done it all. She really could have, but thank God she didn't have to. Thank God my dad was there. Thank God they were married till the day my mom died. And you know, of course, life can always happen, and there may be a myriad of reasons why someone may have to do it alone, but I just feel like you shouldn't have to, barring some sort of, extreme circumstance. I just feel like you shouldn't have to.
Absolutely. And whenever, I speak on these subjects as well, because a lot of women, how I was saying on our previous conversation, are also single moms, so they kind of have to do it all. There's no other person that's there for them. They can't depend on their baby daddy, which we'll talk about baby mama culture in a little bit. Um, so it's like a double-edged sword for me because I know that a lot of the women who listen to me are kind of doing it all and they don't have another option. And I think that they know now that it's not the best for their family. But because you have a son, I think that this is something that you could speak on as well, like how you feel. Because I remember very clearly, very vividly, I was what, a junior in high school, and I remember one of our teachers was like, women, you can do all and be all. I don't know, he was just hyping up women. And I turned to my classmates, to my guy classmates, and I was like, this doesn't bother you? He was specifically talking about women, mentioning women, uplifting women, and I don't know if it's just me, maybe I'm wrong about this, or maybe it's not as common as I think it is, but I think in a way, this culture of promoting feminism is also in a way silencing men. I don't know. What are your thoughts? You have a son, like knowing that I've experienced this and knowing that this kind of keeps happening in school. What are your thoughts on this?
I think the idea of feminism, when boys are exposed to it, it kind of gives them this idea from a very young age that they don't ever have to step up. They don't have to provide anything for the women in their life. They don't have to provide safety, security, protection, defense, monetary, and like they just don't have to do anything. Because I do think that women are so cherished and so valuable and so important and so integral to society, we have the right to feel safe around men, to be protected by men, to be defended by the men in our lives, provided for by the men in our lives. And if we expose young boys to feminism and it's just like she can do it all. She can pay for her own meal, she can open her own door, she can walk to her own car late at night. I would just hate if my son was ever that kind of young boy, not just when he's a man in society. I want him to make sure that if I am in the presence of a woman, even if I do not like her, not only am I not going to degrade her, demoralize her, yell at her, curse at her, harm her, hit her. I am never going to be the aggressor towards her. Going one step further than simply just not being aggressor, I'm going to be the one to make sure she's safe, that she's protected. I'm going to hold her door for her. If I see her, needing help, or like she's like, hey, can someone walk me to my car? That my son will be that person. I also understand that as a woman, I'm not the one to teach those things to him. He needs his dad. He needs a man, and it has to be done by example. I could tell my son anything. I could. What will have more impact is seeing it happen, seeing a man provide for his mother, and you know learning from his uncles and the people around him. I love that when we go out to eat and it's my husband and his friend, there is a literal fight, elbow fight. No, give me the check. No, give me the check. No, I have the check. This real fight happened on Wednesday. And it happens all the time. And I love that my son grows up exposed to men like this who understand that I'm out with my lady, so of course I'm gonna pay. But I'm out in the company of other women. There's no way that they're touching that check.
Uh-huh,
And I
uh-huh.
love that he's growing up exposed to that.
No, no, no. And I completely agree with you that we need more father figures in this way. And, I always gave so much credit for my mom for all the things that she did for my life and all the things that she taught me. However, as I got older, I started to thank my dad a lot more because even though I might have not seen him as often, even though I might have not interacted with him as often, the fact that I was able to interact with my mom the way that I did growing up speaks for itself, speaks for it in it for itself. I hope I said that right. Um, and seeing how at peace my mom was and how happy she was and truly relaxed, now I'm like, oh my gosh, my dad loves my mom. And I know what love is because my dad loved her. And I know what a man is supposed to bring. I know what safety looks like. I know what healthy masculinity looks like. And very quickly, I want to maybe interject this question here, but I'm not too sure if you're familiar with like red pill content at
Yeah.
all. Okay. Recently, I had a lady ask me, how can you discern a traditional provider man versus a red pill guy? And I'm probably going to make a whole separate video on this, but very quickly, I want your take on this because I feel like you have more experience with knowing maybe men who are truly in their masculinity versus men who are pretending, cosplaying to be in their masculinity. What would you say to that? What would be your response to that? How to discern someone who's a red
Well,
pill guy versus someone who's a man?
yeah, absolutely. Well, you need to use good judgment. And one of the ways that you can use good judgment is to talk less and listen more. Just listen to people. They will tell you everything. There is a different, not every man who pays provides. And I think that that's the thing that we have to learn. There's a difference between he paid for something versus he is providing. Okay. A man can pay your bills, but if his motivation for paying your bills is to control you, I saw this guy, I can't remember his name. He was on Shannon Sharp's podcast, and he was saying that he likes to date women in poverty. He likes to date women who are in a very dire financial situation because they're easier to control. A boss woman with her own money and everything, like she can't, like you can't do anything for her. You can't manipulate her. You can't get over on her. This is something that this man said out loud. It's like I was watching the podcast thinking to myself, does he realize we can hear him? Like these, you're not thinking. These are not thoughts going through your head. You're saying this out loud. Do you realize that we are also in the room? And that's a perfect example of a man who will pay. He'll pay the rent, he'll pay the bills, he'll pay for your food, he'll pay for your clothes, but you're going to pay for it in the terms of he's going to manipulate and drag you. It's very, very clear. If a man does any gesture for you and you have to hear about the gesture later on in any context, good or bad, if he brings up that he paid for dinner, if he brings up, I gave you rent money last month, in any context, whether it's a positive or a negative, when someone does something for you out of the kindness of your heart, or when you do something for someone out of the kindness of your heart, they should never have to hear about it again. Okay? It's not always, I picked you up from work last week. Or if you find that someone is counting costs with you, that's a telltale sign. So just understand that even when a man buys you things, okay, you still pay for it in some way, most of the time, right? And what does he want from you in exchange for him paying for you? Does he want your subservience? Does he want your silence because he doesn't want to hear anything you have to say? These are things that you can identify very early on if you're just simply listening and paying attention. I have had men pay for me for a lot of things, but they never really broke bread with me. They never really accepted me. They never really welcomed me in. Meeting my husband, he wanted to provide, not just pay, provide. And his motivation for providing for me was, I just want to free you up. If you got to go to work every day and, you got to deal with these people and then I can't see you till 7 to 8 o'clock at night, because you had a whole, yeah, and then you got to go home and you got to do this. And I want to go on vacation, but now you got to submit a time off request and then I got to submit a time off request. And it's just like, and that job stresses you out anyway. And why are you worried about all these big bills and stuff? Like, I'll just take that off your plate. I'll just make your life easier or whatever. Because I want you. I want your love and dedication in return. That's what I want. I just want a little bit more freedom. And it's already bad enough that I've got a job. So why do both of us have to have one?
And here's the thing, I think another great quality, you just said it here, is that a man, a provider man, a family-oriented man, a good man would understand and would know the value of a woman by being her essence, her presence, which is something that I think red pill men don't quite understand because in a way you have to prove yourself
Yeah,
to them as to why you are
yeah,
worthy of. And real men, they understand they understand your value because they see it. And it's so sad that I feel like right now in today's culture, um, women don't even understand the magnitude of life they bring into a man's life, seriously, just by companionship and by spending time together. We inspire them in a way where no coworker would, no CEO would. We give them that inspiration, motivation, and strength that they need to continue. It's just so sad. But I think that that's another maybe quality to look out for. If you find yourself that you're constantly needing to prove yourself, constantly needing to be subservient because he paid for something, you're paying with either your love, your body, your words, whatever it might be, that's like a very clear indicator that this man is isn't the one that we're talking about. He doesn't
Absolutely.
he's not the one that we're talking about.
No,
So
and
great.
again, it's about discerning. And I think when women aren't used to being taken care of financially, the first man that comes along that's like doing things, they get a little excited and they just jump on it without really necessarily thinking because they just want a break. They've been doing it all, and finally, okay, he's taking the financial burden off of me, and they jump. But don't be so quick. Even when a man starts paying for you for anything, act like you've been here before. Act like it's common. Mm. Oh, honey, thanks so much for the rent. Yo, thanks for dinner. Say thank you, but don't. Like, I've literally seen this. Girls will be like, oh, wow, no one's ever done that for me before. Stop. Act like you've been here before.
That's exactly what I tell one of my students. She was like, "Oh my gosh, this guy does this. The XYZ person would never do that for me." I'm like, "I hope that you're just telling me that and you're not telling your current partner that. Keep that to yourself. Keep that to yourself.
A certain kind
Don't
of
say
man
that."
wants, right. A certain kind of man who's a provider, he actually wants the woman that's been provided for time and time again, where it's just like he wants that girl. Like you're used to this because somebody always does this for you. Like so just even if it's never happened, just act like it. Just pretend.
Yeah, that's when we say Delulu is this a Lulu, okay? No, 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 I completely agree with you, and it serves as a protection layer as well. Because some of these men, they be acting up, and they're hurtful sometimes. Anyways, this is
Mhm.
actually a great segue to talk about baby mama culture. Okay, both you and I, we're women of color, Latina, and you know, I have a lot to say on this from just like specifically the sector of being Mexican. But today I want to talk just overall. I feel like this is still a common trend today, unfortunately. But what are your thoughts on baby mama culture? How can we prevent it? Is there such a thing as preventing baby mama culture? Please share.
I always feel like I'm not here to save anybody. You do what you want. Okay. You do what you want. You want to be a baby mother, you should do that. But I just want to know, how's that working? Is it working? It's not working. Who bears the cost? Again, back to feminism. Who bears the cost of baby mama culture? The women, not the men. Those baby daddies are almost absolved of their responsibility to their families. And it's up to you to do everything. There is no freedom in that. Okay. There is no freedom in that. There's just none.
Oh,
Now,
well,
mhm,
sorry. I want to interject this. So I think the belief is marriage in a way puts you like in not on a chokehold. What's the term that I'm looking for? In cuffs or in chains.
in
A lot
chains,
of
in
people
chains.
believe in chains, right? And so I
Mhm.
think that a lot of people become baby mamas and baby daddies with belief that if you get married, you're going to be in chains. And so I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like what, because it's the truth. A lot of people do believe that getting married will put you like in chains, and they think that by having children before getting married will either eventually lead them to marriage or would just give them the freedom that they think they want because they don't want to get married, but they want the child. Not too sure if this is making sense.
Oh no, it makes perfect sense because I have one friend in particular. There's only one friend. I literally I talk about this friend all the time. I talk about her all the time because she is the only person in this entire world that I believe when she says, I don't want to be married, I feel like it's changed. I believe her to the core. She had a baby. She wasn't married, right? She tried to make a family work with this guy. It didn't work. And she's single and content, her and her child. And she does it all. And she is genuinely content. Like, I honestly feel marriage is a calling, and this young lady is not called to marriage. It feels like bondage. The rest of you all, I don't believe. I just do not believe you. You either believe deep down on the inside that maybe you can't find a suitable partner, he doesn't exist, and you're settling for, you've seen bad models of marriages and things like that. So you feel like you're cheating the system by saying, I'm so elevated and I am so forward thinking. Marriage is so antiquated and I'm above it and I don't need that. But if you feel that marriage is bondage, you're never going to convince me that having a baby with an ill-suited partner is not the biggest shackle that you could put on your life, right? Now, listen, I would tell anybody, if you seem to think that you're like my friend and you don't need marriage, and you genuinely feel like you do not need marriage, okay, fine. Marriage is a calling. Maybe you aren't called to it. However, still evaluate the person that you are going to procreate with on the marriage scale. Choose somebody that is still suitable for you. I have seen people been like, I never liked him. I didn't care about him. He was this, he was that. Like, I just had a baby. It is what it is. Like, I had no compatibility with this person because they were never evaluating partners for marriage. Their children are mainly just a byproduct of their promiscuity. Let me not use the word promiscuous. Their children are a byproduct of their sexual activities, right? It's not really anything. They didn't really evaluate the partner. That puts you at much greater risk. Because if this person is not a person that you cared for, loved, you don't like their finances, you don't like their family, you don't like their job, you don't like their career, you don't like anything about this person, yourself would have nothing to do with this person, but you're willing to give your child 50% of this person's DNA, you're not going to tell me that that's a safer bet than evaluating a partner for marriage, making that they're suitable to do life with before then creating a life together. I'm just sorry. You're not going to convince me on that.
That's why I wanted to ask you this question. I love that. No, no. And I mean, it's true. It's very true. But what about the women who think, well, if I just have his child, then he'll marry me?
That's
Because
a
I feel
bad
like,
idea. That's a bad idea. That's just we don't I mean, do we have to elaborate on this? If you want marriage, now see, I said I gave you all a pass earlier. I said some of you really aren't called to marriage. If you're like my friend, she's not called. She's just not called to it. That's not a diss. I genuinely believe her. Most women, I think, are faking when they say that because, they feel like there's no guy who wants to marry me. So if I take this angle, like I've done something. But if you want marriage, never settle to be a baby mother. If marriage is what you want, do not use the baby as a chip to be married. The shotgun wedding days are over. If you want to be a wife and then become a mother, never settle on that. Because you're taking a huge risk by having his baby first, thinking that he will marry you. Because what if you have his baby and he never marries you? Now what?
period. That happens. That happens more often than him actually marrying you. Because if he couldn't see your worth
Here,
before,
right? But here's the thing: you're in your 20s. I'm in my 40s. Okay, and being
yeah.
in my 40s, making the content that I get a lot of women who are older and they are single, and society looks down on the older single woman, right? Here's the thing. Do you know? Okay, so because I didn't get married until I was 38, had a baby at 39, right? So, do you know the number of deals that you have to turn down in order to make it to your 30s as a single woman? You have to turn down a lot of bad offers. And it takes guts to turn down these offers. You think I wasn't offered we just have that bond? We can just live together. Marriage, it's not that big a deal. We have a connection. I had to turn down that deal. Why do we need to get married? We can have a baby. I mean, I'm ready to go right now. You got to turn down the baby mama deal. Okay. You got to turn down the audition deal. Well, if we live together like 4 or 5 years, then I would need to really know before I marry a person. You got to turn down that deal. You got to turn down the situationship offers. Well, we don't need labels. We can just date. We can see where things go. Do you know the bullets you have to dodge to end up in your 30s and single? Your 30s and single because you turned down every single raggedy offer. And I pray to God that you continue to turn down these offers because it's very important to say no. And you're saying no against the societal pressure and the societal judgment that says, oh, you're losing value because you're getting older. Hurry up and choose. Absolutely not. We're not going to do that. So you're,
Sorry, which is crazy because okay, so I just have to say this. One of the ladies here where I'm living, she changed my entire trajectory of what I thought 40s was gonna look like. She had a massive glow up. So I look at her from pictures when she was my age and so on. She's absolutely stunning in her 40s. She also had her baby when she was, I think, mid to late 30s as well. She looks fantastic. I had no idea she was even in her 40s. I thought she was like in her early 30s. No idea. So I just want to add that. I don't know, like that really rocked my mind. Like that shook me when I found out how old she was. I was like, there's no way. Show me a birth certificate. There's no way you are in your 40s. Why does society makes us feel like when we're in our 40s, like the world is over? On the contrary, like being around her has given me so much more hope. Like now I take my time on things because I see how happy and thriving and just how beautiful she is, how healthy she is. It's why are they feeding us this lie? At my age of 25, I'm even the pressure that I have right now is like, when are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna have kids? Your clock is ticking. Your clock is ticking. When are you guys gonna have kids? That's like all what I hear all the time. As a 25-year-old, I can't imagine what, these single 30-year-old women are facing. So thank you for bringing that up because you're right. You do have to dodge a lot, a lot, a lot.
you
So
have
please
to, I
continue.
mean, it takes skill to get to 30 something and reject the offers because it's not that you're not being offered things, you're just being offered everything you don't want. Okay. And sometimes even if it's a marriage that's been offered to you, because yeah, I was offered that too, but it's not a marriage in the way you'd want or to the person you'd want, and you couldn't live the life that you wanted with that person. You have to dodge so many bad offers and it takes guts.
And so, okay, then my question is, I got married when I was in my early 20s, okay? And even being like 22, I was so young, 22, I mean, still am, but even being 22, what I'm trying to ask is, I guess, like, for my ladies who are in their 20s as well, looking, to get married, because I understand your perspective. Like, when I look back, I'll be frank with everybody, when I look back, I'm like, I should have waited. I should have waited. Not because my partner is awful, not because we're not building our dream life or anything like that. I love where I am. I love what I chose. But I fell into the peer pressure, I think, a little bit on like once you get older, like your options decease. Like that's what
Mhm.
was made for me to believe. And now that I'm in a different city, now that I'm surrounding myself with people who are, in their 30s and I'm seeing them thrive, I'm like, I asked myself the question of like, did I rush it? I know that I made a great decision. But my question is then, would you recommend for people to get married in their 20s or wait until they're in their 30s? Because yeah, I might have not dodged as many bullets, the way that a lot of these younger 30-year-olds did. However, I got offered a really good proposition when I was 22.
You took a good offer. Listen, I would never recommend for anybody to get married or have children in their 20s. I think your 20s is a time to date, explore, travel the world, have fun, but don't ruin your life while having fun. And as long as you can escape your 20s with that, I think you're okay. I really feel like no one should do anything permanent before 30. That being said, there's exceptions to everything. Okay. My husband asked me to move in with him after 21 days of dating. Okay. Now, in normal circumstances, would I be like, yeah, you should do that? That's a good idea. In hindsight, it's like stupid. Like, what were you doing? You took a real chance. And it worked out for us. But would I recommend it? No. So whereas for you getting married at 22, it's been going great for you. It's working out for you. It's doing good. Would you recommend it? Not necessarily. But understand that pressure you felt to like, I got to hurry up and find a good deal now, like right now, right now, right now, is intentional. Society understands just how valuable women are, what we have to offer, and they do understand the value of our youth, and they want that for pennies on the dollar. It is advantageous only to men for you to hurry up and choose a partner before your frontal lobe has fully developed, because they know they're going to get the best. They're going to get a 10 out of 10. And you're not going to have much to require at the front of that because you're young and you're still figuring it out. I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm talking generally. So that is by design because they're going to get the most out of you when you are young, not head fully on straight, underdeveloped frontal lobe, and you're just going to be like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Now, luckily for you, you were set up for success by your mother. Your mother's a smart woman, right? I'm your mother's name. So I know she's smart. She's from the 80s like me, okay? So you had that advantage. But if you are a person who was not raised well, and this is no shade to parents, but if you came from a broken home, if your father was raggedy, if your mother was raggedy, if you grew up watching addiction, if you grew up watching financial abuse, physical abuse, you're not in a position in your 20s. You got to go to therapy, sit on the couch, cry it out before you make what should be a lifelong decision. But I would much rather anyone get married in their 20s before they have a baby in their 20s. Because the likelihood that when you have a baby in your 20s and you're not married, like you're going to end up probably with a raggedy baby daddy because none of us are thinking clearly.
Yeah, and I think that that plays a huge part in it because I did wait until marriage. So like so I think maybe it was also that of like I didn't want, because I knew myself. Like, I definitely knew myself, and I was like, you know what? I'd much rather just be married. But also, Marshana, I always say this. I mean, I think marriage was the only way out for me because my parents didn't support me. And I was actually going to make a video today about how my sister is reaping the benefits of me paving the way for her. My parents paid for her school, and they're taking care of her the way that they should have with me. Unfortunately, I didn't get that. Unfortunately, fortunately. So, whenever I met my husband, he believed in me, something that I didn't receive at home. Like he really helped me out to build my business, to build my brand, to build everything that I have now. It was always there, but because my household, I outgrew my household, and there was no way that I was going to survive by myself in San Diego, being expensive as it was, and I didn't really want to go through the route of like either doing corporate or having to deal with so many people because I was going to shut down my creativity. I
Listen,
found someone who believed in me.
it's a deal that worked for you. Then listen, I tell people all the time, I took the first good deal that came my way. I took the first. After 20 years of dating, I took the first good deal that came my way. And let me tell you, I left things on the table. My husband's great, but I left things on the because when my husband was asking me, like, what do you want? I was like, well, I get married and, I want a house and I want one kid and I don't want to have to work, until my child's at least until like seventh or eighth grade. And I want to be provided for, and I want a nice car. And he was like, okay, that's it. That's all you want. Great. It's done. Deal. And I'm like, oh, wait, 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 wait. I want to take 5 vacations a year. 5? Yeah, 5. He's like, all right, that's it. That's exactly what I got. That is exact, even down to the dollar amount that I wrote down that I said I needed my partner to make. I got everything to the penny. What if I had gone a little further? What if I had said, I need a nanny, and I need a traveling nanny, and I need a housekeeper more than every other week. I need a housekeeper, and what if I had kept going? I got exactly. That's why I tell you, be a little bit delusional, be a little bit delusional, be a little crazy. And even this deal that I got, which was a great deal, and I took the deal, okay? I jumped on that deal so fast. And I faked out like I was making him wait, but I was locked in, okay? That was my husband, okay? We were getting married. As much as it's a good deal, I would tell women, just be irrational. There were so many men who told me no one's ever gonna give that to you. Look at me now.
Love that. I love that. Yeah, no. And so thank you for bringing that into light because I really did not think about I didn't think about how many no's you had to say when you're in your single in your 30s because I mean I didn't see it that way. I did not see it that way.
Mm,
Did
I'll
not
tell you,
think it
no
that way.
one wants to talk about the deals that you have to turn down. And they want you to get desperate and just take one of those bad offers. Like, did we wear her down enough? Did we, ageism her to death? Did we, humiliate, shame her to death? Did we do this? They just try. They tried so hard. And you have to have wit. So, do I judge older single women and older single men equally? No, no, no. I judge us very differently. Men do the asking when it comes to marriage, not women. So you cannot judge a woman for being unmarried. She literally cannot ask herself. If it is up to the men to be the ones to ask for marriage, we should be asking the men. Why haven't you stood yourself up to a level where you are a suitable marriage partner, where you can provide, protect, be a father, do all of the things? Why isn't it that you can't get out here, because we know there's some good women out here, and choose a suitable mate? There are good women out here. It's you. You do the asking. So I judge an older single man way differently than an older single woman. We are not the same.
I agree. I agree. I agree. And I feel like it's because of just the maybe the double standard that we have for women, versus men, but and it
And
ties
there
back
are
into
double
feminism, I
standards because
think.
there's gonna always be double standards. We're not the same. We're not the same. Okay. This whole thing that we all have equal inherent value as children of God. Okay. But we are just different. Okay. We're not the same.
No, no, no. I completely agree. And I mean, since we're both married women, this is a good segue into my next question. All right. I like to call my gringo Vanilla Man. Okay. I like to call my husband on the internet as Vanilla Man because I did marry a Caucasian man. I am obviously Mexican American. I received backlash marrying someone that was outside of my culture. Um, Not from my family, but I guess once I started posting on social media, I had no idea that this was a thing.
Mm.
Um, and now I know that you might have also experienced the same thing where you get comments or you get people saying, "Oh, you're just trying to act white now because you married a white guy." What are your opinions on this subject? Because
Mm.
unfortunately, now I'm starting to hear from my family, and I didn't hear in the beginning, but now that I moved away, now that I'm pursuing different things, my family does say here and there, "Oh, you just think you're a white girl now. Oh, you just think you're blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, no, I mean, I want to get better. I'm working on my marriage. I don't understand where this is coming from. How do you respond to this? Because now I'm left thinking, how did we get here? But have you received any backlash or any feedback like this? Please share.
Okay, I have definitely received all of the above, but I'm going to ask you a question. What's the ethnicity of the people who are giving you this negativity? No, I mean we could smash this right here. Let's start at the beginning. Who What is the racial identity of the people who are accusing you of being white for wanting to be white for marrying a white guy? Who's saying that? I'll wait.
Definitely my people. Definitely
It's
they're,
only
yeah.
people who ethnically identify the same way that you do, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I don't know if there's any white person out there who disapproves or feels negatively about me marrying a white man, because even if they do feel that way, they have at least had the common sense not to say it out loud. They at least whisper behind my back. Anyone who has ever said anything negative about me being married to a white man is another Black person, or you know, is another sometimes people in my family has even said it. But you know, I got a DM the other day. I get nasty DMs all the time, and people are like, "Was it just no Black man like available in your area, or did they just hurt you too much?" Block. Now, as a Black woman, I feel so badly for any Black woman who lives and walks uprightly, who desires marriage as a foundation to start a family, who presents herself in a respectable manner, because she will always be accused of wanting to be white. There's no way around it. And it's not because I believe that living uprightly is white. I just think it's simply living and walking uprightly. I just live proper. I was raised well. Okay. I wasn't dragged up. Okay. I was raised by a mom and dad, you know, faith-based people who made mistakes but were good people. So I don't know what to tell the Black people, particularly the Black men who send me the hate messages, who leave me the nasty comments, but I will share this. I have always been a white man's Black woman. I mean, always. I can't get away from it. I mean, like, from my first boyfriend ever at the age of 18 to my husband, who is now my forever boyfriend. I mean, they're the bookends. It started with a white guy, it ends with a white guy. I mean, I dated everyone else in between, but here we are. I've, whatever it is that white men who are open to dating Black women, whatever it is that they go for, I've always had it, you know? So maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline. It's just me. And I don't know what to tell them. You know, I was never gonna get along with Tyrone. Like, Pookie and I had nothing in common. Like, what can I say?
That's so funny. But no, no, no. I feel that. And so I bring that up because I get a lot of questions on like, what should I do if I married outside of my culture? And they put in quotations like I also married vanilla man or I also married a Caucasian man. And I agree with you. The other party never really makes it a big deal. It's like you guys fell in love. You love who you love, and it is what it is. And so I just wanted to add a little segment here speaking about that. Has it been hard for you to marry outside of your culture, though? Are there any cultural differences? Is your husband pretty open-minded? So what I found is my husband loves the Mexican culture, so he just loves it, loves Mexican food, loves our parties, loves
Yeah.
everything, and he's very welcoming of it.
You know, it's interesting. So this, and I was built for this life. Okay, let me just start by saying that, you know, Black women out there, if you're not used to dating white men, you gotta go to Black girls dating white men 101. Okay. But I graduated from that class in the 90s, and I'll tell you why. I was always called white girl. Not, I wasn't dating. I did not date in high school. I didn't start dating until I was 18 and in college. But I was always called the white girl. I was always called an Oreo. I was always called stuck up. I was always called, oh, you want to be white? Because I always had a different aesthetic. I wore trousers to school and slacks. I really wasn't a jeans girl. I owned them. I wore loafers and not sneakers. Like, I was never gonna wear Jordans. I still don't own a pair. I don't get what the hype is. Okay, they're just not for me. I always wore my hair this certain way. I always talked a certain way, and I adored 90s grunge rock alternative music. Die hard into Nirvana, Seven Mary Three, Silverchair, the Smashing Pumpkins, the Cranberries. Like, that was always me. So I meet my husband, who's 10 and a half years older than me. So in the 90s, when I'm a teenager, he's in his 20s, right? And one of our favorite stations to listen to is Lithium. It's a Sirius XM a station, and it's all like 90s grunge. And I will be there, and we'll be in the car, and we'll both be singing like top decibel to our favorite songs. And I'm like, honey, do you realize you could have been with someone else, and she wouldn't have a clue. She wouldn't know any of these. And then, the song Mighty KC by Four Squirrels, like I can like get you like not just the top 10 stuff, like the real music of the day that didn't necessarily hit mainstream. But there's this song called Mighty KC by Four Squirrels, and I'm singing along because it came on, and I was like, oh my God, probably haven't heard this song in 20 years. And my husband was like, I've never even heard this one. I'm like, okay, so now I got you beat. Did you let your Black Jamaican wife beat you on this? Okay, so it's ironic that we just have like so many similar tastes in music, in places we visited, in the travels. Even when I met him, he said, "Have you been to Italy?" Because he's Italian. He wants to show me his world. I'm like, "Yeah, I've been. I've been." So we have so much in common that it's not really a culture clash because we're more alike than not. I would have a much harder time relating to the guy who's maybe my age, but in the 90s he was listening to Bad Boy and other, like rap music. Because I mean, I do know 90s rap, but it wasn't my thing. So my husband and I are more alike than even I would be with, let's say, another guy who grew up in Brooklyn during the same time that I did, who's Black. Like it just wouldn't work.
Interesting, interesting. No, no, no. This is so good. Because I guess for me there are some similarities, but not with music. There is similarities with movies, shows, pop culture references, because even though I'm Mexican American, so even though I am Mexican, I was raised here in the States, so there's a lot of similar likes. However, I think he had never seen how important like family is, and I think that just has to do with him in general. So he really loved how we all just take care of each other because we're used to family and nuclear family and just taking care of our elders. So that was very new to him because he had never experienced that. So that's so interesting. But I just wanted to touch on it a little bit to see if anybody else, would relate to you, and also to not be afraid to date like different people. Just because they don't look like you doesn't mean that they're not gonna have the same tastes like you do, or maybe you guys do have the same dreams but you don't know because you keep dating the same prototype. Like it's okay to
Right.
expand, I think. um because it worked out for me. I think my husband and I, it's just great. I really like it.
I
I
love
also
that.
said I also said too that I never really saw myself being married to um someone like, like me that has the same, I guess, background, just because of the machismo aspect. A lot of Mexican young boys are being raised to be very like good men. They all tend to be raised very good men, provider mindset men, but they have a machista lean, which is like very sexist, to be very sexist and to treat women less than, because that's what they see in their household most of the times. And just in the area that I was in, because I was so close to the border, I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to marry someone who has the same belief systems that way. And so I ended up marrying a cowboy, which is basically the same thing as a vaquero, except there's no machismo, there's no sexism. And so it ended up working out in my favor because I married someone from the South. So I got all the same traits, very similar traits. The only thing is that there's not a lot of sexism in the way that he views me because he sees me as an equal, which is great. Does this make sense?
Oh no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you married someone where your value system aligned. And I think that's more important than ethnicity. And I don't know many other cultures other than Black people who have this idea that Black women, and I'm going to say it because it's not true for Black men, but there's this idea that Black women have to put themselves on reserve for Black men to be chosen last, if at all. Why? Why? You don't, I'm not going to reserve myself for you. spend my years dating you when you are like the least marriageable group. Like you're not gonna, we don't value the same things. And it's evident in the Black culture when you look at the number of Black children being born into single parent homes. When you look at our marriage rates, they are abysmal. I don't value that. I don't. I don't see the value there. We're not going to get along. So if I want and desire marriage and I put myself on reserve waiting for a Black man to come and marry me, as a Black woman, I am playing a real dangerous game. They are more likely, if and when they marry, to marry someone else. And they should have the right to do that. But I am not going to put myself on the shelf for a Black man as a reserve and to maybe never be chosen, and if at all be chosen last. This is done on purpose to the Black community so that the Black man will always have an option to fall back on. I am not a fallback plan. You can mix me with the nonsense. So I've dated every ethnicity and race, Black men included. And I had to start turning down not the Black man, but the situationship offers, the we got that bond offers, the I don't do labels offers, let's hang out and chill offers. Look at me. Look at me.
Period.
The white man did see me, and every time he saw me, he knew, okay, I got to treat this one right. I got to take her out well. I got to bring her home to meet the family. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to come correct. Whereas when I met, Black men would see me and they'd be like, oh, well, you look stuck up. Like you look like the girl, like a man got to have a lot of money to date. Yes. Yes. Thank you for noticing.
I love this. It's true. It's true. And I have a lot of, actually, one of my top countries too is Nigeria, interestingly. So it's US, Nigeria, and then it's India. So
But no,
getting,
but
we're getting,
Nigerians believe in marriage. See, they're not even they don't even fall under this Black American umbrella. A Nigerian man
really?
will get married.
Oh,
They
you
do
know
not.
what?
I do not count them as part of this culture. Absolutely not.
You know what? That's exactly what Candace Owens was saying. She's like, Nigerians, you guys have your stuff together.
They have their stuff
Like,
together.
you
They value education. They value family. They value their marriages. They don't play. And any Nigerian in America who's running around with the baby daddy culture, they have assimilated way too far into American Black culture, and I'm sure their family is not happy with that. Okay, they raise upstanding people in society who value doing things uprightly. The way that Nigerians are raised, it's like how I was raised as a Jamaican. You come into a place and there's a party going on or some kind of family event. You go and you greet every single auntie. You go and you greet every single uncle. Because if you do not go and greet every single auntie and every single uncle, you have brought shame on your parents. And then you got to hear about that. Your mom and dad are not going to let it go. Nigerians have the same thing. So I'm sorry. It's particularly Black American culture. But me being Jamaican, my parents were married. Jamaicans do engage in baby mama culture too, but the Jamaicans who had a little bit more education and were raised in the church really latched onto the church and kind of pushed the church narrative of getting married and not becoming, and you didn't want to bring shame on your family that way. So that's another thing that kind of kept us on the straight and narrow. So there is still even a difference with Caribbean Americans than like Black Americans. And that's not to make Black Americans less than or to say that we are better than and that Black Americans are worse. It's simply to draw a distinction in the value systems that we are exposed to and the value systems that we choose to believe in. That's the difference. There is this value system here in America that it's not important to get married. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you like, it just doesn't matter. So if you are raised in that value system and you buy into it, that's what you're going to do. My value system is different. My husband being Italian, you have to understand. I wish people understood. Stop looking at my husband being white. The value systems are the same. See? See, I was dating the Black men, and the nasty comments come to me from Black American men. It's not Nigerian men, other men, other ethnicities. And I'm looking at him like, Tyrone, don't you worry, baby. Don't you worry. My husband did not take me from you. My husband did not take me from you. You never had a chance. You have always been marked safe from me. I was never coming to your party. It's okay.
And you know what? Here's the difference between, and this is so interesting because for me, it's the Mexican women. It's
Mm.
not the men.
Oh,
Not the men.
oh,
It's the
really?
women who
For me, it's the
attack.
black men. It's the black men. The black men call me a bed wench weekly.
No, no, for me it's because I think for some reason I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, once you're listening to this, let me know in the comments. Um, because I think there, I mean, not I think, I know that there's a lot of DV, domestic violence, within like our, just in general with our culture because of machismo and because of sexism and all of these things. Like it's still very prevalent in our culture. But I think because I'm not suffering, or I chose something that is like I know who is going to treat me right, that I don't have to deal with the um someone degrading me, someone disrespecting me, someone talking to me as if I'm less than, or you know, because I'm not suffering or in a love of suffrage, I get judged a lot. I get judged a lot on that. So, a lot more when I had my Spanish account. I would see it a lot. And it was
I
mainly
mean,
women. Not the men, it was the women.
yeah, black women will give it to me sometimes, like, oh, you think you better, oh, you only live a good life because you literally a quote from one of the people on TikTok was like, you only live a good life because you got married outside of Blackistan. Wow. Okay. Thank you. I'll get the off comment like that from a woman, but whatever. It's never a white person because, like I said, even if they thought it, they knew better than to say it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as American culture, no matter what color you are, doesn't overwhelmingly lead and believe in marriage. You're saying that your countries that watch you, you mentioned Nigeria, you mentioned India. India, we the way Indians believe in the marriage and family construct is needs to be studied.
It's
Okay?
it's so
Studied.
good.
They need to be studied. And I get it. No system is perfect. Even some children will say probably, oh, I was just expected to get married when I was young, and maybe it didn't work out. I'm not talking about the outcomes necessarily of these marriages, because I understand not all of it is good, not all of anything is good, but having that family, this is why they come to this country and they do better than any other ethnic group. They're doing better than white people. They're doing better than black people. They are at the top of the heap in the United States in terms of how much money they earn, because they come here in the family unit and they don't forego that and assimilate so far into American culture, baby mama culture, and things like that. They still have these social guidelines that just set them up for success. They do better than anyone else.
And you know what? That brings me up to my next question, which I know that we were talking about how family ties are really good and they're healthy, but in a sense where everybody has the same goal. When everybody has the same goal in the family, everybody's uplifted. But what happens when you have a toxic mom and a toxic dad, a toxic household,
Mm,
where you, in a way, have to break away
mm,
from them to succeed?
mm,
Do you have
mm.
any words of wisdom? Anything that you've seen, your girlfriends or any women that you've helped online, how they've successfully done it, or what it takes to even recognize that? Because I work with a lot of women who they're in their current exodus where they have to break away from their family. And when they tell me their stories, Marshana,
Mm,
specifically with their moms and how
mm,
hurtful their moms have been to them,
mm.
I never thought something like that could ever exist, ever.
Wow.
And it's not like
Wow.
one student, it's like I'm attracting a very specific type of woman where she is successful, she is a high earner, if she's already after college, or she's in college and she's pursuing a STEM, a STEM degree. They're very specific types of women. And the question that I always get is like, Karla, I want to practice what you say. I want to have my feminine energy. I want to learn all these things, but my current environment is not supporting what you are preaching, but I know that that's the right way to go because I want peace, I want stability, I want, how we said last time, I want boring in my life because I'm surrounded by chaos,
Mhm.
but my family keeps holding me back
Mm.
from achieving the
Mhm.
things that I need to do.
Wow.
How do I set boundaries? Is there even such a thing as setting healthy boundaries? What would your advice be? How would, like, what would you do? What would you do if that was, if those were your cards?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I did, because as much as I love my parents, and I don't like to share so much about my childhood because I don't want anyone to ever think that I'm blaming my parents for anything. They've passed away. And but our household was just very toxic. It was not a good place to grow up, in poverty, with hyper religious cult like facet. I always tell people I was raised in a cult because that's literally what it was. um and you know, the toxicity, and we had a sick sibling. My oldest sister passed away. And when you have these dynamics in the family of religion, poverty, three children, one is really sick, very limited resources, it's easy, if you're the healthy, one of the healthy kids who's not sick, that your needs are overlooked, that you can be neglected. Neglect in itself can be a form of abuse. And what really helped me is I had to get away from my family. There was just no other way. I had to get away. So I had really great mentors. And there's a lady in my life. She's my second mom. I call her mom. You know, she took me under her wing when I was in high school, and I was living with her and her family part time while I was in high school. And she said to me, she's like, "Do you know what happened to little girls like you?" And I was like, "What happened?" She's like, "Girls who have, like, issues at home, and there's problems, and there's all these things. They get into the wrong relationship. They use relationships as a form of escapism. They end up getting into this habit of being with this guy for a place to stay. They end up poached on by older men. They end up promised all these things. They might even get into drugs. They might have a baby young just to kind of like attach themselves with someone to get away. Like this kind of can affect you. But if you want out of your house, I am going to help you. You're going to stay here with me. You're going to be here part time, which I did. Her family folded me into their family. And um, she's like, "You're going to go to school. You're going to get an education. You're going to go to college. You're going to go away to college. And I'm going to help you get there." I said, "Okay." So we do it. I get out of high school. She helped me do all of my application to college. And I literally got out of I got out. Now, keep in mind, my two older sisters never believed that I was going away to college because they were older than me, but my parents not, they want you to do well, but they didn't have any know-how, right? They had no know-how. They themselves were not college educated, and they had no idea how to make this happen for me. But because I had this mentor, this mother figure, she helped me do it all. And when the time came, my sisters just couldn't believe it. And this woman packed me up in her car, drove me 4 hours to upstate New York, took me to the store, bought everything I needed for my dorm room. When it was family day at school, at college, she and her entire family would just drive up, you know, and I had a good person to put their hand on my shoulder and tell me, and I'll never forget her words, "The world wants you. The streets want you," right? They want to suck you into their ways and they want to pull you down this rabbit hole. But I have decided that the world can't have you. So, and going away to college definitely helped. It got me out. I mean, it got me into the wrong relationship eventually. I don't know. I hated my dating experience in college. But anyway, it got me a degree. It got me something that I could go out and start to work, get some money, and get some independence. When I moved back to New York City after college, I did not go home to my parents' house. I went to my mentor's house and I lived with her until I could afford a little apartment. So I would say find trusted people. Um, I mean, in those days, we didn't have the internet, right? So at least now you have, because we're talking about the late 90s, early 2000s, you have the internet. You have voices like Karla that you can listen to that can kind of mentor you, that can kind of guide you. But do your best to gain some sort of financial income, some sort of this independence, move away move away, move away. If you are constantly surrounded, it is harder to draw the boundaries with people you're going to see any all day, every day. I did go through a period of estrangement with my family, and that really helped happened around me leaving their religion, leaving the cult. You know, that was something that was really frowned upon. And to this day, I'm the only one of my family members that ever left. The rest of them just like all died in the cult. It's just crazy. Anyway, so when you have a different way of thinking, when you see the world differently, you just can't be around those people. Like you can't. And I'm not saying that you won't ever reconcile, because I was able to reconcile with my mom and my dad and my oldest sister, and we died best. We died. Blech. They died. When they died, we were the best of friends. When they died, we were the best of friends. And my mom was a great person to me, and my sister that passed was a great person to me, and my dad was a great person to me. And when they passed away, we were all on good terms. But it was a journey. So I would tell you, for the sake of your own evolution, you have to get away.
No, I agree. I say the same thing. I mean, I didn't have that mentor the way that you did. However, um, God gave me charm. God gave me these lips that know
Yes,
how to secure every job interview.
yes.
And so when my husband met me, I was financially stable. A lot of people think that I got married or married him because I needed some sort of financial security. I had the financial security on my own. I wasn't even depending on my parents. I was paying rent when I was living with my parents. I just couldn't pay an apartment in San Diego. Like there was just no way. Like there was no way. It was it was one, too expensive. I knew I had already a lot of connections there. And so the only reason why I was ever home really was to shower, eat, and do chores. Because if I was going to be living there, I needed to do chores. And I say this to my students too. I'm like, if you don't have to be in your house, don't. I would
Don't do that.
shower at like co my college campus bathrooms because I did not want to be home. And this isn't, I agree with you, Marshana. Like I don't like to talk about my childhood either because it paints my parents like ugly and evil.
And
They're not. They just had limited resources. And like I said, they learned from me. They did the complete opposite with my sister. And I'm so thankful that they learned from me, that they learned something from these experiences that they had. And I'm so thankful that my sister gets to experience different parents. Like I wouldn't want her to go through the things that I did. But anyway, um, I was financially stable. I had a really good job. I was also in like property management, real estate management. And so thankfully we were working off of commissions. And like I said, God bless me with these lips, with being persuasive. So I had bought my car, my first car by myself. I was already stable. And so when my husband came into the picture, it was like, oh, like we have the same goals, the same dreams, we want the same things. You believe in me, I believe in you. Why not? Now we're here. And I think I needed to even move away from San Diego to experience the things that I'm experiencing and to even get healthier and to enjoy my marriage at a different level that I don't think I would have been able to if I would have stayed near my parents' proximity. And, because I get a lot of questions all the time from women, like, how do I set these boundaries? But I agree with you. Sometimes it requires you to completely have this exodus experience where you cut ties essentially. You cut ties for a little bit. Doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. They need to feel the loss. They need to feel the loss. As the eldest daughter,
it's not even as much as them feeling the loss. You need the absence. You cannot grow in that environment. So it's not always about imposing consequences on them as much as this is what I need for my growth.
yeah, and I guess I say they needed to feel the loss because that's just how it ended up working out. I didn't do it on purpose for them
Mhm.
feeling the loss, but I definitely saw a shift in my relationship with my parents once I married and quite literally left. Um, my parents became more understanding. They respect my boundaries, and the byproduct of that is that now they have healthy relationships with all of my siblings, not just me, because, I in a way paved the way for that to happen. Um, and so I'm just very thankful that we're here now. And so I completely agree with you that sometimes it requires you to walk away, grow, and then you can come back. I came back. I love my mom. I love my dad. I love my family. I love what we have now. We're a lot healthier. That wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have create this space.
Right.
Um, yeah.
People don't
And
talk enough about the price that you pay when you think outside the box, when you don't think like others around you. You're gonna pay a price. I wish I had better news, but you're gonna pay a price. When I started thinking differently about God, religion, or whatever, that came at a price. When I started seeing the world differently, when I started valuing different things, you're gonna not just your family, you're gonna lose your friends, you're gonna lose a lot of people. And the world just works in a way that you will find your people. If you've landed on this video, you clearly don't think like other, the mainstream thoughts of maybe somebody else in their 20s, or if you're watching this in your 30s, you're clearly thinking against the grain. And that takes courage. It takes courage, and it will cost you a few things in the short term, but it's so much better for you long term.
the long term, yeah. And that leads me to my next question for closing. How can we encourage and even give these women advice on self-regulation, on emotional self-regulation, self-soothing? Because what we did required a specific level of self-control, a specific level of living in faith. Because again, I had no idea what I was doing, but I just knew what I wanted. I didn't see it. I believed it. I'm like, I know that I can, and I went after it. But that took an immense amount of self-control for me to be able to prioritize the things that I was prioritizing to be where I'm at today. And so I'm sure you have a lot to say about that. I mean, please share.
I mean, you do need self-control because you're going to have to sometimes deny yourself like an immediate payoff, for long-term gains. You got to think long-term, and you have to think about your future. It might feel good, to be with this guy right now because he's so cute, the kisses are so sweet. But if he's not good for your future long-term, and we always know that. You always know that. You just don't trust your instincts, which is a fatal mistake. So always think of the end goal, think of the places where you're going, think of the life that you want, and behave in a way that leads you to that. I heard someone online say something, and it just really stuck with me, was that you desire the things you desire because the future you already has them. Your future self already has them, and that's why you desire them. So behave in a way with self-discipline and structure so that way you can get to the things that the future you already has. And just remember that you have these desires for a reason. Oh, hold on a second, girl. Hold on, pause. Pause. Hold on. And self-discipline, and understand that self-discipline is a form of self-love. You got to love yourself, and when you love yourself you can regulate in a way that sets you up for success, because you're not going to find the success you desire by not by being acting in an unregulated, very very unrefined way. It just doesn't serve you.
No. I completely agree. And that leads me to my last question for thriving in your 30s and 40s. I watched one of your videos that really touched me, by the way. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Um, you said that at some point you accepted that you weren't going to be able to play the catch-up game.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of women can relate to that because they
Mm,
might feel guilty or shame or embarrassment. And
mm.
so I want to give you the space and this platform to share, your wisdom on this because you had the right words and you live it out every single day. And I just love this very refined perspective that you had to share. So for women who feel like they're being left out or they're losing time, what what do you have to say?
You know, when I posted that video, it had overwhelming response, but there is this idea that we should be at a certain place in our life at a certain time, married at a certain time, own a certain home at a certain time, make this money at a certain time, and all of those things. And the older you get, if you are not measuring up to the society standard, you begin to feel this concept of being left behind. Like, I'm 27, when is it going to happen? I'm 38, when is it going to happen? I'm 40, I'm 43, I'm 44. Because of the way I was raised in this cult-like environment, and just by Jamaican parents, limited resources, all the things I mentioned before, I'm not going to be where other people are. I cannot catch up. I cannot catch up. I bought my home when I was 40. I'm 43, I'm going to be 44. I cannot have the amount of equity in my home that someone else who bought their home in their 20s is going to have. I am not going to have the retirement savings of other people who work in corporate America. I no longer want to catch up, because as long as I do that, I'll always be behind instead of appreciating where I am. You can only be behind if you're measuring your goals and success against those of others. So, oh, you've reached the recording limit of your plan.
Yeah, no, no, no. That's for
Oh,
Otter. Don't worry about it.
my bad. Sorry. Um, but I can't catch up. I just have to be where I am. I can never catch up to the person who had a baby at 25 when I had my baby at 39. You know what I mean? They're in a different place and I'm in a different place. And I don't think you can appreciate where you are while you're still measuring your distance based on how far other people have traveled. You have to measure it based on where you are. I am grateful. I tell everybody, I get down on my knees and thank God that 20s something me was denied at every turn, that every guy I wanted didn't want me back, that they all dissed me, that they all, oh my gosh, so grateful. Even into my early 30s, I'm glad I didn't get my way with any of them, because it's not that I didn't want them at the time. I wanted it. I wanted them to just, give me what I wanted, and they didn't want me. Thank goodness. I would have ruined my life. I would definitely be divorced. And worst case scenario is I could have had one of those men's child. Yeah. So, just sometimes things not working out for you is really a blessing. And as long as you remember to be where you are and just measure yourself according to what you want, not how fast you can get there, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And
Mm.
I want to add too, for people who are, also maybe in their 20s going through this, feel like they're being left behind. Your priorities are going to be different. I realized once I got married, because very natural, happens to everybody. Um, you can start comparing your life to your classmates, to those who are also growing with you. And in the world of materialism, sometimes it gets the best of me because I think I'm pretty like, I'm just gonna admit it, I'm pretty materialistic, okay? I like nice things. But now I feel like I've let go of that a little bit, not because I don't love myself or not because I can't. It's just my priorities are different. And I didn't really realize that when I was younger, because I would always say, I would never do that. I would never let go of this, blah, blah, blah. But now that I'm here and I'm prioritizing the investing, the saving, the if you're gonna purchase something, make sure that it's like good quality, not fast fashion or different things like that. My priorities just have completely shifted, and that's okay too. And I think that that's what I got from the line that you just said, like, what did you say? Just because don't measure to what other people are doing, be content with what you are doing right now. And I feel like it goes to that because my goals are different than my classmates' goals. What I want in 5 years is going to be different than what anybody else wants in 5 years. What I want next year is going to be different than someone who is, you know, going to college, still, single or like starting up their small business. Is going to be different. We're all in different positions. We're all exposed to different things, so we're not all going to achieve the same things at the same time. So thank you for adding that too.
Oh, of course, you're welcome. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and so with that being said, I want to close this episode with just saying thank you, Marshana, again for joining us and for giving us your wisdom. I value your time so much, and I just hope that we could always work together as long as I am here before I have children. I think once I have kids, I think I'm gonna take a break for a while. I don't know. I'm still kind of debating how I want to handle that situation. But just thank you so much for this genuine conversation. Your words inspire me and you inspire me as a woman, as a mother, and as a wife. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us here on the Karla Eli Show.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, thank you so again so much for sharing your platform with me. I really appreciate it. I love your audience. Like I said, I just feel more honest with your audience than even my own because your own personal audiences are filled with people who know you and are a little bit more judgmental of the things you say. So I definitely enjoy this exchange and just thank you for the work that you do, for trying to shift the mindset and just help people, particularly women, young women, because it's so much easier when you get on the right path early. The earlier you get on the right train, it's just better. So thank you for the work that you do because it's very important work.
No, no, thank you so much, Marshana, and I'll take that blessing. I'll take your words and let's see when we collaborate again and have another conversation. You never know. You never know what
Never,
might come up.
never know.
But anyways, we'll see you next time.
All right, see you. Bye.